This is Stormwatch, a WENY News special presentation, brought to you by Simmons Rockwell Nissan.
Well, welcome to Stormwatch 2023, brought to you by Simmons Rockwell Nissan. I'm Chief Meteorologist Joe Veras, along with meteorologists Catherine Schwam and Deshaun Robinson.
We thank you for joining us on our severe weather special. Over the next half hour, we'll cover a variety of severe weather topics, including flash flooding, tornadoes, and extreme heat.
We'll also take a closer look at climate change and whether or not it has any effect on the frequency of severe weather. But first, as we all prepare for the upcoming severe weather season, let's check in with a local county emergency service center to see how they prepare for severe weather events.
Staying weather aware and having a plan that your family can follow during times of severe weather can make a big difference when seconds matter.
Whether it's a tornado, flash flood, or any other extreme weather event, it's important to know that help is only a phone call away.
We visited the David Kowick Emergency Operations Center in Wellsboro to find out what happens on the other end of the line when your emergency calls come in during severe weather.
My job is to be here. I'm working with the 911 dispatchers closely. I'm taking information, I'm paying attention to what's going on, what kind of calls they're taking. Another one of my jobs is to communicate with Harrisburg and the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency to let them know what we're encountering up here.
Dispatchers at the 911 center can alert emergency services within seconds, sending first responders where help is needed. The number of calls can escalate quickly in times of severe weather, but dispatchers are trained for these situations.
It could be anything from fires to hazardous materials incidents out on Route 15 or Route 49, weather-related stuff. There's a lot of moving pieces here that you kind of have to keep track of and be prepared for. And I guess my ultimate responsibility is to make sure that the county is as prepared as we can be.
Depending on the severity of the situation, emergency services can work with other agencies to help those that may have become displaced.
In flooding, if we have to establish a shelter and do evacuations, the Red Cross plays a huge role in helping with that shelter, staffing it, and again, making sure that people have what they need.
Dave Kowick, Director of Emergency Services in Tioga County, oversees the operation.
It's not just me. I mean, it's the team. We all work together as a team to make it work. My main function is just to get that equipment and technology available and functioning for the dispatchers to do their jobs.
The County Emergency Management Agency not only helps provide assistance prior to and during severe weather events, but also provides additional help in the days following severe weather outbreaks.
The day after, we need to get out into the field and start doing damage surveys. If there were a number of homes damaged, then we have to put together assessment teams to go out, look at the amount of damage. Are the homes livable or not livable? And again, in the matter of the floods, we talked to PEMA, let them know what was going on, and we actually got federal disaster teams to come up here and start looking at, is there funding available for people to help them.
The Emergency Operations Center in Tioga County has been able to utilize the latest technology available to help assist those affected. Operations today are streamlined to help expedite emergency services and utilize cutting-edge technology. And Dave looks to the future for even more updates.
I can see when we'll be getting calls from more electronic devices, getting video from people that are in the field and pictures. So if somebody calling in an incident from a cell phone, being able to go to video and see exactly what they're seeing, I see that happening actually in the pretty near future.
Flash flooding is the second deadliest weather disaster in the United States. It can be caused by heavy or excessive rainfall in a short period of time, generally less than 6 hours. I spoke with one of the lead meteorologists at the National Weather Service to find out more.
it's falling so fast that it doesn't have time to go into the ground. And so that causes a lot of runoff of water.
Meteorologist Mitchell Gaines explains what happens when rain falls so heavily in a short span of time. It has nowhere to go. Water can rise so quickly, it can trap people in their homes or businesses and can cause significant damage.
Flash flooding happens rapidly, and we saw that in the August 18th flood of 2021.
The WENY News team covered the flash flooding that day.
Emergency manager continues to issue a travel advisory in effect for Steubenton County, emergency travel only. South central areas of Steubenton County as well. We're still looking at some showers in and around the Woodhull area, right along 417, and Tuscarora Creek continues to rise. Check out what happened along Tuscarora Creek. Very low levels earlier today, and then it dramatically rose once that heavy rain stalled out.
Just about in the hour or so that we've been here, it has receded quite a bit. When we first got here about an hour ago, the water was still flowing over the top of the bridge.
You don't have to live in a flood zone to be at risk of flash flooding, but the amount of risk depends on where you live.
Geographic nature of our county, we have tall hills, low river valleys. That water that falls on the hilltops have to come down the hills into the river valleys.
How quickly flash flooding can happen depends on how heavy the rain is, how wet the ground is, and the geography of where you live.
People can be caught off guard if they're not prepared for that.
Having an emergency kit and supplies ready ahead of a flash flooding event is critical. Listen to your local news and government officials for updates on the weather, and have an evacuation plan in place ahead of time. Keep your electronics charged, have cash on hand, and copies of important documents. And if you are traveling, never drive on a road covered in water. Just remember, turn around, don't drown. It can only take 6 inches to sweep away an average person, but it will take about 1 foot for it to sweep away your car. It is never safe to drive through water-covered roads. There could be unseen sinkholes, or the road is completely washed away. Most deaths during flash floods are caused by people driving through floodwaters. Flash flooding can happen rapidly, but the recovery after the waters recede can take much longer.
Could be, hours to days to weeks to months to years.
In Steubenton County, communities like Woodhull are still recovering after flash flooding in August of 2021. In nearby Jasper, students at the Jasper-Troopsburg High School have spent the past 2 school years traveling to a nearby district after the flooding heavily damaged the building. Joe and Deshawn, I checked in with the superintendent of the Jasper-Troopsburg School District, who tell me they're still working on repairing the school.
Well, as we head into another severe weather season, stick with the WENY First Warning Weather team, and we'll continue to keep you updated when the forecast has the potential for flash flooding. Coming up, we'll take a look at how meteorologists predict and track tornadoes and whether or not our changing climate is resulting in more severe weather events.
But first, as the weather begins to warm up, we look into the dangers of heat-related illnesses. You're watching Storm Watch. We'll be right back.
You're watching Storm Watch, brought to you by Simmons Rockwell Nissan. We'll return in a moment. We now return to Storm Watch, brought to you by Simmons Rockwell Nissan.
Welcome back to Storm Watch. Extreme heat is the leading cause of weather-related deaths in the United States.
The CDC says heat stroke is the most serious heat-related illness. This can have harmful effects and can even cause death if not caught and treated quickly. Heat stroke is when the body's temperature rises rapidly and your body has a hard time cooling down. The body's temperature can rise to 106 degrees Fahrenheit or higher within several minutes. Sweating is the only way your body naturally cools itself down. If you're working in hot weather, your body may begin having a difficult time producing enough sweat to keep you cool. With rising temperatures, you need to be aware of the conditions that could cause you to suffer from a heat illness.
That threshold's often met around that feels like temperature of 95 degrees, combining both the heat and humidity. So we usually have at least half a dozen of those days. And then when we get fairly extreme heat with a lot of high temperatures well into the 90s and a lot of humidity, that's when it's really stressful on the bodies.
Now, depending on the person, you might be more prone to heat-related illness. People who are heavier, the elderly, and the very young tend to be at higher risk. And if you suffered a heat illness in the past, you're more at risk of having it happen again. Dr. John Rittenberger with Guthrie says knowing the signs and what to do when someone is showing symptoms could be the difference between life or death.
There are many people that just feel tired, they have cramps, they might have nausea or vomiting or headaches, so they can be rather non-specific symptoms that they'll experience. And then with time, if they get to the point where they're not sweating anymore, that's the true danger time.
When a person stops sweating, that means their body temperatures have gotten to a point there's no way to cool down anymore. Other more severe symptoms can include seizures, confusion, slurred speech, and even losing consciousness. When someone begins to show symptoms, the time to act is now. Move to a cool, shaded area. Remove outer clothing to help with the cooling process and place wet cloths on the skin. If symptoms continue, call 911 immediately. Dr. Donna Pikett with Guthrie says there are steps you can take to try and reduce your risk of heat illnesses, starting with what you wear.
Lighter color clothing that they don't absorb the heat. We recommend some of the looser fitting clothing. Try to do the ones that are what we call wicking. They'll actually take the fluid away from the body and allow it to evaporate. Actually, pure cotton is really not good because it actually gets waterlogged and it actually can kind of affect your ability to take care of the heat.
Keeping hydrated on hot days is key. If you're feeling thirsty, it's a sign you're already dehydrated. Water is the best thing to reach for, while alcohol and caffeinated drinks can actually dehydrate you. Dr. Pikett says fruits and slightly salted snacks are the best to eat on hot days rather than the sugary stuff. And if you're feeling overheated, head inside and limit your time outdoors to stay safe. Other ways to prevent heat-related illnesses would be to stay in the cool indoors during very warm days. If you are planning on activities outdoors, plan those events during the morning and evening, avoiding the midday where it will be the hottest.
Remember to keep up to date on the temperature before heading outside. We'll have more tips on how to stay cool during the hot summer days on our website, WENY.com.
Coming up, tornado season is ramping up across the country. We'll take a look at how First Warning Weather team keeps you prepared ahead of any potential danger.
You're watching Storm Watch, brought to you by Simmons Rockwell Nissan. We'll return in a moment. We now return to Storm Watch, brought to you by Simmons Rockwell Nissan.
And welcome back. During the spring and summer months, powerful thunderstorms can spin up tornadoes across the Twin Tiers. Let's look at the process involved when forecasting these dangerous storms. In order to predict these major events, meteorologists look at computer models. These models supply us with a variety of essential information needed to pinpoint and forecast the potential for tornadoes. There are four main ingredients that we look for. They are moisture, shear, instability, and lift.
You have to have a lot of warmth and moisture in an unstable atmosphere. So that's ingredient number one. You need an unstable atmosphere with some moisture. But then ingredient number two is that's just to make a storm, right? Mm-hmm. And ingredient number two will tell you what type of storm you will get, how organized the storm will be. And that ingredient is wind shear.
Different wind speeds at different altitudes is a form of wind shear. The wind shear in the atmosphere creates a horizontal tunnel of air. When this tunnel nears a thunderstorm, it turns vertical and can produce a tornado. The computer models are very useful, but the National Weather Service is the best resource. The National Weather Service looks for favorable conditions for tornadoes as much as 8 days out.
It's not until the day of, or even just a few hours before, that we issue severe thunderstorm or tornado watches. When we're in the watch phase of an event, all the ingredients are present, but the storm is not actually there yet.
A watch is issued when all the ingredients are present. What about a warning?
Once we get to a warning, however, the tornado or severe thunderstorm has been indicated on radar or has already been reported and is in progress, and so it's imminent at that time.
The National Weather Service has several divisions, including the Storm Prediction Center. The Storm Prediction Center is responsible for putting out severe weather outlooks several days in advance.
The Storm Prediction Center of the National Weather Service is located in Oklahoma, Norman, Oklahoma, and they coordinate with all the local offices on a regional to national scale of where the threat appears to be highest, where the ingredients are starting to come together. Then, as a group, the Storm Prediction Center and the offices involved will decide which areas of which states need to be under a severe thunderstorm or tornado watch, where the ingredients are finally coming together, and the next several hours could be pretty difficult.
When looking for the tornado potential within storms, meteorologists look at a variety of tools, including satellite. Satellite gives us useful information like moisture content and cloud speed at different layers. Then we have radars. Radars can share precipitation information like type, intensity, as well as wind speed within the atmosphere. It can also detect size of objects in the atmosphere like hail. These sophisticated tools are critical, but a trained eye is important. WNY News has weather watchers across the Twin Tiers acting as additional eyes and ears when it comes to weather conditions. Forecasting tornadoes can be very tricky since these rotating storms occur on a small scale. Consequently, the process involved requires technology, human resources, and time.
The WENY First Warning Weather team will always update you when the threat for tornadoes is expected within our area.
And in recent years, we've heard a lot about global warming and climate change. We decided to take a look to see if changing weather patterns have any effect on our severe weather. Severe weather, including floods, thunderstorms, tornadoes, and hurricanes, occur every year across the United States, but is the frequency increasing? And if so, is climate change to blame? We look into the science to learn more. We'll start with a look at temperature data because, as it turns out, temperatures have a direct impact on severe weather. Last year, 2022, was the 6th warmest on record globally. Shockingly, the top 10 warmest years on record have all occurred since 2010.
There's a pretty good link between rainfall and climate change, right? So as the Earth's surface warms, the ability for more moisture to be in the atmosphere increases, which means if there's more moisture in the atmosphere, there likely will be more rainfall.
It turns out just a 1-degree temperature increase leads to 4% more water vapor in the atmosphere. This in turn results in more frequent heavy rain events. Unfortunately, the heavy rain events increases our risk for flash flooding. Not only are flash flood occurrences increasing, but the severity of the flooding has led to an increase in billion-dollar disasters. In fact, in the last 5 years, billion-dollar disasters have become much more frequent, occurring on average every 18 days. These life-threatening disasters resulted in an estimated $165 billion in damages in just 2022 alone. The warmer temperatures have also contributed to more intense thunderstorms. Heat helps create more instability in the atmosphere. The more instability present, the stronger the thunderstorms are, putting more Americans at risk, not only from strong thunderstorms, but also tornadoes.
All type of tornadoes start from thunderstorms themselves. And so, right, what is one of the ingredients of a thunderstorm, right? You need moisture. And of course, increases in atmospheric moisture are linked to increases in surface temperature due to climate change.
A warming planet has also led to an increase in sea surface temperatures. While this alone doesn't necessarily contribute to more hurricanes, the warmer sea surface temperatures will help the tropical systems that do develop become stronger. Stronger hurricanes lead to heavier rain, higher storm surge, and stronger winds, all life-threatening impacts when hurricanes make landfall.
Work that has been happened in my group here as well as colleagues around the world has shown that the amount of rainfall, the total amount, and the high intensity rain rates that are in hurricanes have increased over the last 100 and some years because of climate change, due to the warming of the ocean.
So when we talk about climate change and warmer temperatures, even just a slight change can result in a ripple effect of significant impacts, resulting in more frequent severe weather events. Well, coming up, El Nino is developing across the Pacific. We'll let you know what, if any, impacts it'll have on the upcoming hurricane season.
You're watching Storm Watch, brought to you by Simmons Rockwell Nissan.
You're watching Storm Watch, brought to you by Simmons Rockwell Nissan. We'll return in a moment. We now return to Storm Watch, brought to you by Simmons Rockwell Nissan.
Well, welcome back to Storm Watch. So in recent weeks, the Pacific equatorial waters have begun to warm a bit, and that's a sign of a developing El Nino pattern. But the big question is, what, if any, impacts will that mean for the upcoming Atlantic hurricane season?
Well, usually El Nino suppresses hurricane and storm development across the Atlantic. But the waters across the Atlantic are very warm, so the signs are conflicting.
Well, with that being said, guys, the Colorado State University has released their numbers for this upcoming hurricane season. And good news for us, just slightly below average compared to previous years.
All right, and that is good news, but we know all too well it only takes one storm. Look at 1972, the first storm of the season, having devastating impacts on our region here in the Twin Tiers. So, as always, you can count on the WENY First Warning Weather team to keep you up to date on any impending tropical development. We want to thank you for watching our severe weather special Storm Watch.
You can count on the WENY First Warning Weather team throughout our severe weather season for timely updates to keep you and your family safe.
From all of us, thank you for watching.
This has been a WENY News special presentation. Storm Watch, brought to you by Simmons Rockwell Nissan.